Good morning. This is September 22nd, Friday, and we are in BBIS first semester English class, and this is the fourth recording we are making during our class. So in the previous recording, I was reading paragraph 4 and I focused on the thesis statement. Now, in paragraph 4, it says that how people use space differs from culture to culture. Now, when you go to paragraph 5, it opens with the word for instance, and for instance means for example. So, what do you see in paragraph 4 makes a claim, makes an argument. This is the claim. This is the claim. Or argument or thesis statement, right? Here is the claim, argument, thesis statement. Now, in the next paragraph, you have an example to prove that idea. For instance, says international business consultant Chandra Sunodown. Another remarkable thing, look, the writer brings a resource or authority to support her point. International business consultant. In academic writing, one feature of academic writing or academic texts is that writers bring reliable sources, scholarly ideas, opinions, people's views to support what they're saying. And Lisa Davis is saying something about how people use space, and while she's saying something about how people use space, can you see, wait a minute, she brings a resource, international business consultant Chandra Sunodown. She says, Saudi Arabians like to conduct business discussions from within spitting distance. In the previous paragraph, the writer said, use of space differs from culture to culture. Claim. This is claim from paragraph 4. Now, here is an evidence to support the claim. Here is an evidence example. Saudi Arabians like to conduct business discussions from within spitting distance. They will sit so close while dealing with business partners that they might spit on each other's faces. Literally, they bathe in each other's breath as part of building the relationship. Americans. Now look, from use of space differ from culture to culture. Okay, this is Saudi culture. Now, about American culture. Culture to culture. Americans back up. Now look, or let's say, Saudi Americans. So Saudis stay too close when they have conversations. Now Americans, they back up. And the earlier claim was that how people use space differs from culture to culture. Now here is example. Says Snowdon, but again you see inverted comma, and I told you that one important characteristic of academic writing is that writers frequently quote other people's ideas and views to support their statement. But they are harming their chances. Now here, they means Americans. They means Americans. They are harming their chances of winning the contract. See the cultural difference and the consequences. Problems. What are the consequences? You lose your business contract. If you're an American and you go to Saudi Arabia with business deal and you sit on the discussion table, and if you back up and maintain larger distance, the Arabians will feel you are a cold fellow and you might lose the business contract. In seminars, Snowden discusses the close quarters common in Middle Eastern conversations. People in Middle Eastern societies like to stay very close when they have conversations, and has her students practice talking with each other at very chummy distance. So Snowden, while she is training Americans for international communication, she makes them stay very close and talk, so that if and when they go to countries like Saudi Arabia, they will not feel uncomfortable while staying close to their counterparts. So what do you see? In paragraph 4, the writer makes a claim. In paragraph 4, the writer makes a claim. Then in paragraph 5, the writer gives example, brings example to support the claim. To support the claim. He brings an example to support the claim. In academic writing, you make a claim and you give reason to support the claim. Okay. Now let me go to paragraph 6. Still, her clients had better be careful where they take their shrunken space bubble. She uses this metaphor. She uses the metaphor is bubble. What has bubble? You have soap bubbles. Bubbles are when you have soap, you have tiny formations and they are so sensitive, you touch them and they blow. Because cultures are idiosyncratic in their spatial needs. Now, another important thing, a paragraph has two things. A paragraph has main idea and it has supporting details. Sometimes the main idea can come in the first sentence, sometimes the main idea can come in the last sentence, but sometimes the main idea can come in between. Here we have the main idea in the first sentence. So this is the main idea. Cultures are idiosyncratic in their spatial needs. So there is no rational, logical rule in cultures how they use space, and different cultures use space differently, or different people within same cultures use space differently. So this is the main idea of this paragraph. Now you will see the details. Now example, Japanese subways bring people about as close together as humanly possible. For instance, yet even a handshake can be offensively physical in a Japanese office. Look, if you are in a subway in Japan, you can come as close together as humanly possible. But if you are at home, even a handshake can be physically offensive if you come too close. So at home, Japanese maintain distance with other people, strangers let's say, but in some ways they don't mind being too close. So do you see, within a single culture, Japanese culture, people use space differently in different contexts and situations. This means cultures are idiosyncratic in their use of spatial needs. It's not easy to understand how people use space in cultures. Okay. And says researcher and writer Mildred Reed Hall. See, another feature of academic writing. I have been telling you again and again that academic writing is based on research. Academic writing is based on other people's ideas. So do you see here, earlier she brought a resource, Sandra Snowden. Now Lisa Davis is referring to another scholar. What's her name? Yes. Researcher. Lisa Davis brings the idea of researcher Mildred Reed Hall. Americans can even make their business counterparts in Japan uncomfortable with a kind of direct eye contact that's normal here. Now, Americans have direct eye contact when they are talking to someone. Now, not only do most Japanese businessmen not look at you, they keep their eyes down. See the quotation? She is quoting. And when you quote, you are bringing direct lines from other person. Why? To support your point. Hall says, we means Americans. We means Americans. So do you see, this essay presents the American viewpoint. We look at people for hours and they feel like they are under such light. So I'll say something about this paragraph before I move ahead. A paragraph has two things. A paragraph has the main idea, and I said this is the main idea. Then a paragraph has details to support the main idea, and in this paragraph you have two details, two examples. One, the example of how Japanese people use space at home and in public. Another, how Americans have eye contact and Japanese don't have eye contact. Do you see, this paragraph also uses comparison contrast. Do you see? There is also comparison contrast. The author is comparing and contrasting how Americans use space and how Japanese use space. The new thing I told in this paragraph is, I said a paragraph has main idea and it has supporting details, and sometimes main idea can come in the first sentence as we have here, sometimes it can come in the middle or sometimes at the end. Here we have the main idea in the first sentence. What is the main idea? Cultures are idiosyncratic in their special need, and your work is to note down the main idea as you read. Let's move ahead. Paragraph 7. The study of personal space got underway in the early 1950s when anthropologist Edward Hall, now another scholar is referred. Earlier, Lisa Davis was referring to Mildred Hall, now her husband Edward Hall, described a sort of cultural continuum of personal space. Hall has frequently collaborated with his wife Mildred Hall. According to Hall, on the high contact side of the continuum in Mediterranean and South American societies, for instance, social conversation include much eye contact, touching and smiling, typically while standing at a distance of about a foot. On the other end of the scale, say in Northern European cultures, a lingering gaze may feel invasive, manipulative or disrespectful. A social chat takes place at a remove of about 2.5 feet. Now let's understand this line by breaking a space here to write. We can't. Okay. So it says that there is a term about cultural, let's draw a line. What is, understand this concept of cultural continuum. Draw a line. Now, here you place high contact cultures, and here you place low contact cultures. And now, which are high contact cultures? Mediterranean cultures, South American societies, they are high contact. And in these high contact cultures, what is the feature? There is much eye contact, there is more touching when they have conversation, and there is more smiling when they have conversation, right? And when they stand, they have a distance of only one foot when they stand in public while having conversation. Now, when you go to the other end of the scale, the Northern European culture, okay, right here, Northern European cultures. Now, here what do you see? A lingering gaze may feel invasive. No lingering gaze. You should not look into someone's eye for a long time. Manipulative or disrespectful. A social chat takes place at a remove of about 2.5 feet distance. So do you see, again in paragraph 7, you have an example to prove the thesis statement. In paragraph 4, the writer said that culture to culture, how people use space is different. And in paragraph 5, the writer gave examples of Saudi Arabian culture, American culture. In paragraph 6, the writer gave example of Japanese culture, American culture. So do you see, the writer is comparing other cultures with American culture. In paragraph 7, we have a new concept, the idea of cultural continuum. Note it down and make sure you understand, because you might have a question examination on this. The concept of cultural continuum means there is a continuous line. Let's say, let's draw a line. Here you have high contact cultures where people come very close. You have low contact culture where people have a distance. In the middle you have Americans, right? So we read this paragraph 7. Now we move to next paragraph 8, before my battery drains. In the middle of the road, United States, people usually stand about 18 inches apart from this sort of conversation, unless we want to win foreign friends and influence people, in which case research shows, whatever Liz Davis is saying is based on research, academic writing. Research shows we had better adjust our posture. So she is advising Americans to change their body language. Better adjust our posture. In one study, when British graduate students were trained to adopt Arab patterns of behavior, staying close, like facing their partners straight on with lots of eye contact and smiling, Middle Eastern exchange students found them more likable and trustworthy than typical British students. So when